everybody. I'm Tom Vessel.
I'm Z Garcia.
Today we're taking a look at Nunatak, Temple of Ice. And this really is a Temple of Ice because if you look at the back of the box there, you'll see a temple. You're building a 3D temple here. But don't worry, I'll say this right at the onset. This is not a dexterity game.
Right.
It doesn't feel like one at all.
Right.
I played this game on some actually funky tables, and it has never collapsed.
It's
not an
thing.
issue here.
Not a thing, yeah.
But it is a game in which you are, well, you know what? I'll show you how to play it. In this game, you'll have a starting pile of tiles. They'll have the number 1 on the back, and you'll put them out here. This is the base of the pyramid. You'll have some tiles that are numbered higher next to the board. And what's going to happen on a player's turn, there's some cards down here. They're going to take a card, replace that card, and then put out a block of their color on one of the symbols that that card shows. In fact, if you can't find that symbol on the board anywhere, then you can't take that card. And so you can see these have little edges on them, and they fit right in there. Now, a couple of the cards give you special bonuses. If you ever take a fire card, then next to the board are some of these fire cards, which show fire on them. And there's 2 face-up cards. Some of them are one-time use cards over the course of the game. Some of them are special abilities, and some are end-game scoring. So you get one of those when you take a fire card. Also, if you ever take one of these builder cards, then before you put your thing on the builder, you can switch it with one other spot before you put your piece on there. Now, putting these pieces out, you're going to put the card in front of you. And we'll come back to these cards in a bit. But when you put pieces out, if you ever make a square, and as time goes by, that is what's going to happen. So let's say orange goes here. That finishes this square. So then who has the majority here? Well, it's orange. If there's a tie, it's the person who put the block there. Ties will happen a lot in this game. That person is going to get 5 points. Whoever's second place gets 2 points. In this case, it's a tie, so they simply both just get 1 point. And sometimes, if you place your blocks properly, so let's say the blocks were like this, then when orange puts a block here, they're finishing this one, and this one. So you would treat each of these separately. When you're finished with the block, you're then going to draw the top tile and place it between the block that's finished, and now you can build on top of these. Although it's going to be a slightly bigger thing here. There's a pyramid. It will have 4 layers as you build up. If you put a piece on top of one of these second layers, you'll look at the pieces directly below it that are your color, and you'll get 1 point each for placing them. Finally, whenever you place these out here, if you place a piece and it's the last one in a row or a column, you will move your architect marker, each player has one on the side of the board, up 1 spot for each row column you finish. And on the second and third level, the rows and columns are shorter. The game ends when the entire pyramid is completed, and then whoever has the most outside pieces on all the different levels gets to put this piece on and score 7 points, and that will be put on the very top. And by the way, this is a very sturdy, good-looking pyramid. Then all the cards you've been collecting, you'll be storing them in front of you like this. So these are the Beast of Burden, storing them in front of you. And each of them are going to score for players. Whoever has the most builders gets 20 points. Sculptors will score points based on how many you have. The tools, the artisan cards will score for each set of 3 different tools. And same tools, the Beast of Burden, you'll take the number of symbols, multiply it by the number of cards. So for example, this is 5 times 3, this is 15 points. Architects are worth points based on how far you've gotten on this architect track. So you multiply that number by how many of those cards you have. And fire cards will give you points for different matching symbols, as well as all those fire cards that you may have collected. Some of those at the end of the game will give you extra bonus points, or they'll have given you points during the game. And whoever has the most points is the winner. Component-wise, I love this game.
It's something.
Those pieces, I mean, there's so many, first of all, they look good. They picked 4 colors I mean, orange, I guess, isn't very icy, but the other three colors are ice, and orange is a nice contrast.
Yeah.
So it works well. But these pieces, they fit on the board very easily. Mm-hmm. They hold those other pieces easily. The tiles themselves have slots, finger slots, so the whole thing stacks nicely, but it doesn't, it's sturdy, but also very easy. Like, if you're going to pick up a tile and move it to another spot, it's easy to do.
Not a problem.
I'm just so impressed. The card symbols,
knocked it out of the park with this
I
one. They
really think
did.
so. It's a lot of pieces. I was just telling Z before we started here. You got to work to get it back in this box.
Yeah.
This box is completely full.
Yeah.
So that's the production. I think there's a great production. Cosmos usually does a pretty good job in their productions, and I think this is the kind of game that if you're playing, people will come by and be like, "What you doing?" Because that looks kind of cool.
Yeah, halfway through the game and onwards, you start having a really impressive-looking board in front of you.
And there were interesting things, because when I was teaching you said, well, how are people going to be able to count the outsides for the end?
Yeah,
and it's really
not a
easy,
problem,
because the pyramid is almost not transparent, but it's easy to see where things are. I never say, I'm putting this guy on top. How many oranges are underneath there? You can see it.
No, I agree. Yeah, that was not an issue. I thought it might be a problem, but it really wasn't.
The only weird things about production, and just the way the game works, is that you kind of got to tilt it. If you're playing at a long table, which a lot of people have, you have to tilt the board diagonally so that each side is facing somebody, and everybody has to work on that score track, because you get points in this game. You are over, and this feels like Stefan Feld designed the points.
It really is a point salad style game. Every turn you do something, you get a couple of points, probably. To the point that there's so many little things to watch out for. I feel like the game almost demands that you pay very close attention, or you might miss completing a row or a column or a square. And sometimes a single placement completes a row and a column and a square, and you're like, okay, hold on.
Well, the squares aren't so bad because you have to put the thing on top of them.
Sometimes you don't do it, and you kind of, oh wait, a square was already done here.
Sure.
When was that done?
It's not too hard to walk that back, but you're right. It is one every turn, every piece you put out.
You need to
like,
check some things.
How do you score that piece? Fortunately, the cards are scored at the end of the game.
Right.
And only 2 cards have special abilities.
And the turns are incredibly quick in this game. That's the other thing. On your turn, you grab a card, you put out a piece. That's 90% of the turns.
But you usually feel like you're doing something cool.
Yeah.
Like, either I really want that card, or I'm finishing a row or column, or I'm finishing a square.
Yes.
The only thing I would complain about in that regard is the rows and columns can be a bit of a red herring, because they only affect the architect's cards.
Yes, right.
And if you're not collecting architect cards, you're like, ooh, I finished another row. Ooh, I finished another column. It's like, well, that doesn't really matter if you're not going to be getting points from that.
Yes.
I also thought there's 2, the special cards. The rule book wasn't necessarily clear on how some of them are scored. Mm-hmm. Like, is this an additional scoring, or is this a replacement scoring? We played where every card was a replacement scoring. I think that's the way to do it.
Yeah.
But the rule book could have been clear in that regard.
That's fair. You're right. Yeah, that could have been a little bit spelled out.
And in a 4-player game, and so in a 2-player game, in a 4-player game, there's 2 extra towers at the top. Mm-hmm. So there's some tiebreaker cards that you see, that whoever's winning that tie, and second place winning that tie, they're going to get to put out those extra 2 pieces. That works. It feels the slightest bit inelegant.
That is actually one of my issues with this game. I think this game, it plays 1 through 4, and the only player count that doesn't require some adjustment, be it small or large, is 3.
It's a great 3-player game, though.
Insanity. Yeah, it is a great 3-player game. It could be one of those, like, put it on the 3-player games list. But at 4, at 4, you need that thing at the end to denote who gets the extra 2 pieces. At 2, you got to take a color and split it or whatever.
Yeah, I actually don't. I'm going to say I don't like the 2-player rules. I don't like having that third color that I put some out, then you put some out. I'm like, Pueblo almost feels like that old Pueblo game.
And I get it. It gives you a new layer, tactics, all of that jazz. Sure, I get it. I want to take a quick turn. And this game has quick turns. And nothing else to kind of get in the way. At 3 players, that's a negative for me, for sure.
The scoring of cards at the end is interesting. I can't pick any card that seems better than the rest. They all are really good. Mm-hmm. The scoring feels very similar to Nidavellir, if you ever played that. There's a lot of copying over from that, but it's enjoyable. There's only so many ways you can pick to score things anyway. Sets, triangle scoring, whatever. And it's just fun because you can really try to get on one card. And there's cards that have something on both sides. So when you take it, you pick which one it goes to.
Right.
There's tiles with 2 symbols on them.
Right.
So what would you give the game?
I really like plenty in this game. There's a couple of those things that are holding me back. And again, I'm trying to debate with myself how strongly do I consider that sort of weirdness of player counts. You know what I mean? Well,
Sure.
just play with 3, and that's fine. Yeah, but it says 1 through 4 players, right? So there is that to it. But I love the speed at which this game gets to build that pyramid.
Yeah.
Like if you did a time lapse of this game, you're not waiting around for this pyramid to go up. It's going to be quick. Your turns are super quick. I also like that they smartly, later in the game, the tiles that you're putting a thing on can work with one of 2 types, and the cards start to do that too.
Which means you're not going to run a situation where you can't play a card.
Right. Very clever. That works really well. I'm going to come down at a 7.5. I'm going to split between that and an 8. I'm going to come down at a 7.5 on this one. It does still bother me that there's some of that points-salidiness to it. It's a little excessive. And the player count thing, it's just weird. But I like the game, man. I am going to be playing this some more at 3. Feels good.
Yeah, for me, this is an 8. I agree with Z and everything. I would say that the tiebreaker thing for 4 doesn't bother me that much.
Mm-hmm.
It gives you a little thing. So this is a 3 or 4 player game for me. But I can see people enjoying the 2 player.
Sure.
Right? But man, it just... I think I'm coming around on point salad. I think I'm starting to like point salad. We just reviewed another game where I complained that the points were too low. That's not the case in Nunatak. And
Fair.
in fact,
Yeah.
it's one of those games where someone could be... You're like, man, I'm 30 points behind. But wait till we score those cards.
Yes.
I'm going to get you on that. And
I like that amount of hidden scoring, or like endgame scoring, I should say, not hidden. I love that. I love that tension of, ooh, is all that big column you're collecting over there going to be enough to catch me? That's fun tension.
And the first time I played this, I got caught because I forgot that having a card of each type got you a bonus of 10
That's
points.
right. That's right.
And I was like, oh, I'll never forget that again. And then I forgot in almost every game. In fact, on one of the last games I played, nobody got that bonus. I'm like,
Right.
but 10 points could be anything, right? So
And the scores are close, actually, for how much you score, because you're in the hundreds, right? Or, above 100. Yeah, but the scores end up being close. It's a tight game.
187 to 184, you're like, oh, man. So that's Nunatak Temple of Ice. Ken Klenko did it again. I'm Tom Vassell.
I'm Z Garcia.
We'll see you next time. Hey everybody, thanks for watching another video from the Dice Tower. Hey, you want to learn more about us, communicate with us? We have a Facebook group, we have a Discord channel, lots of different ways to get involved with the Dice Tower. You can find that in our Linktree link below. So just click that, it will take you and you can communicate with us on Facebook, join our Facebook groups. There's lots of cool things that you can find and become part of the Dice Tower. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Tom Vassell.